Hello and welcome to Tall Guy Films. Today we're talking about how you can improve the quality of your audio while recording and streaming. So what this is basically going to be, it's just going to show you how you can set up some effects to run on your audio stream live, and then also what effects and plugins to use and how to set them up properly. So right now I have a setup of plugins and effects. So I'm going to show you how to set that up basically. So anyway, right now what you're hearing is completely unedited, what's being recorded with my plugins that I've got going here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn all these off and then dive in and show you what all I have and how I have it set up. So anyway, right now I'll just go ahead. This is what my voice sounds like without any of that filtering. So anyway, let's dive in and let's look at all of the stuff that I did with the audio. So this program right here is VSTHost, and pretty much everything I'm showing you with the exception of one plugin is completely free. You can download it for free, including this application. So the way it works is just by inserting plugins. So the first thing you'll have to do is go to File and set your plugin path to wherever your VST plugins are installed. A VST plugin is a generic audio plugin format. So pretty much any audio plugin you find, you can get it in a VST format. And then the default is right here in this program file Steinberg folder, so just hit that. And then if you hit, you either set plugin path or rescan plugins, that'll scan all your plugins and set them so you can load them up into the program. So the first plugin I'm going to use right here is I'm going to use a denoising plugin from iZotope, this RX6 voice denoise. Now you will have to change your path right here if you click this button right here and then just deselect that. This is controlling the inputs. As you can see, we have an input going directly from our input to our output and one going from our plugin to our output, so it's kind of doing parallel there, but we don't want parallel, we want to do this in serial. So if we just uncheck that, and unfortunately we'll have to do that for every plugin. It's kind of annoying, that's just the way the program works, but you know, it is what it is. Now if we hit this key right here, this is our plugin controls right here, so you don't have to change anything right off the bat. This is set in adaptive mode, which will just automatically detect the noise and start canceling it out. And optimize for dialogue is what we want. And I found that just the default settings, just leaving it like this, runs perfectly. You do have to give it a couple seconds when you first start up the plugin to get it going, otherwise there will still be some noise at the very beginning, but once you start it, you leave it for a couple seconds, that will reduce the noise. So now if you're listening to my voice, there should be a lot less background noise. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in an expander gate. And again, I'm going to have to adjust the inputs so that it's running in serial. So again, if we hit that button, just open this up. Now a gate isn't really necessary in this case, but what a gate does is a gate will basically stop any audio that's below a certain level. So say if we set this to, let's say -15 dB, my voice probably sounds kind of choppy and weird right now. And that's because this gate is only letting the audio pass when it's above that level. So again, this isn't really necessary, and let me just dial that back. Just set that to -30. If you have a denoiser plugin like this RX voice denoise, having a gate isn't really necessary, but if you don't have any kind of denoising plugin that you can run live, then a gate like this is a good option. And also I do run it in addition, just to cut out any unnecessary background noise that might slip through my denoising plugin. But for the most part, with this denoiser, it's not really necessary, but you can use it as an alternative. And again, just set the threshold to something around -20 to -30 dB, depending on what the sensitivity of your mic is. And I found that the attack and fade controls are pretty natural and pretty normal just where they're set. So after that, I'm going to put in this 2S EQ, and again, these are all free plugins except for the iZotope plugin, but I will link all of these in the description down below. So again, if we just change the input so that we can run this in serial, and again, we just open this up, Now with the EQ, this is basically just another tool to help cut down noise. So what I can do is enable this cutoff right here. I'm going to set this to 120 and then change the gain. And what this will do is this will cut out any low-end noise. This also gives you a spectrum you can see right here, which will give you an idea of kind of the frequency response. So anyway, setting this right here will just kind of cut down some of the low end and some of the boominess that might be in a voice. And then we're going to do the same thing at the high end. We're going to set this to 15,000 hertz. And this will just cut out any unnecessary high-end noise. If you want, you could also do some EQing, like you could boost the low end here, or maybe boost some of the mid-tones, or maybe cut out some of the more of the high end. But I've found that with this mic at least, none of that is really necessary, and really all I need to do with the EQ is just to cut out the high end and the low end, which you'll typically do with an EQ in post-processing anyway. So the next plugin I'm going to apply is this TDR, whatever it's called. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Again, we'll just set up the chain here. And this is a compressor, and what this is going to do is this is going to eliminate some of the peaks. That is, if I suddenly talk really loud, this will help kind of limit that. And then I will put a limiter after this, but this is just kind of like a serial compression method that will reduce that a little more gently, and it'll be a little more natural than just using a limiter. So anyway, I'm going to set the threshold to -32, and then I'm going to leave this ratio at 2:1. I'm going to change my attack to 3, and I'm going to set my release to 300. And what this will do is this will make this a very, very gentle compressor. It's not doing a lot of compression by itself, and that's just kind of to kind of gently roll off some of the higher peaks before we send it into the limiter. That way the limiter doesn't have to work so hard. Because when the limiter is doing a lot of work, it's doing a lot of limiting, that can sound kind of unnatural. But anyway, so we've got that. So now we're going to add in our final plugin, which is this Loud Max, and this is a hard limiter. And again, what this will do is this will make sure that we don't peak our audio levels at all. So if we set the output to -2 dB, and we just bring down the threshold, basically, and actually I'm going to go in here because I had to bring these levels down a little bit, so I'm going to raise them back up. But this is basically just going to guarantee that our levels will not go over -2 dB. And the reason I set it at -2 is that even though it is a brick wall limiter, it can get a little bit over, so that's giving the limiter a couple dB of headroom. That way there's a little space just in case the limiter isn't able to limit the audio enough. And this should also bring up my voice a little bit compared to before. So as you can see, my audio should be sounding a lot better. My voice should be sounding a lot better. And again, just to reiterate everything, we've got a denoiser, we've got an expander gate, we have an EQ, we have a compressor, and then we have a limiter. And this would be a fairly standard setup for live audio processing. And also, if I were to process my audio in post-production and editing, this is more or less the sequence that I would go through to edit it. So then, what are the advantages of doing all of this live as you're recording? Well, the big one is if you're doing something like, say, live streaming, then obviously you don't have any opportunity to edit things after the fact. Everything is live. So this will much improve the quality of your audio live. And also, if you are maybe you don't have as much time available to do something and you need to edit something really quickly, this is a way where you can do all of your editing as you record, which can save some time because that way you'll get a clean, nice audio recording right out of the gate. Now, there are some disadvantages, obviously, to doing this. Say if I were to put some EQ in, say I just cut out right here, and I decide when I'm recording, oh yeah, that sounds good. But then once I get into editing, I change my mind and realize, oh no, I don't really want to do that anymore. Well, now I can't really change it. Sure, I can boost the EQ right there and kind of get it back to where it was, but for the most part, by doing all this, I'm really limiting myself. Again, with the compressor, all that stuff, I'm really limiting myself in case I do want to change anything in post-production. Now, you could do a multi-track recording if you are recording, where you do one track that's this live processed audio, and then do one track that's just a clean, straight out of the microphone track. That way you can use that processed audio, but if you decide you don't like it or there's something wrong with it, you do have that backup track of that clean, unprocessed audio, which can be a good thing to do. Now, one last thing I want to go into is this VSTHost, how exactly I'm getting the audio into it and out of it. I'm using a plugin called Virtual Audio Cable, and what that does is exactly what it sounds like. It creates a virtual cable. So in this VSTHost, the input I have is my microphone, but then the output is the virtual audio cable. And that way, all of the audio going out of here will go into that virtual cable, and then whatever application you're using, in this case I'm using Open Broadcast software to record, you can just set your mic input as the output from that virtual audio cable. So that virtual audio cable will install as a driver, and then it will let you run audio from any application to any other application, in this case running from VSTHost to OBS. So anyway, that's it for this video. So if you like this video, if it helped you to improve the quality of your audio, whether that be just recording or whether that be live streaming, hit that like button. If not, feel free to hit a dislike button. If you have any questions or comments about how I did this setup, feel free to leave those in the comments section down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button.